the Ottoman Empire was the most powerful of its era and conquered many regions in a decisive fashion. However, their invasion of the Balkans was met with stiff resistance. The peoples of this region fought the intruders for almost 200 years and defied their rule long after that. The bloody Battle of Kosovo in 1389 exemplifies this struggle for independence. So, let's see how this battle came to be. The Seljuk invasion, followed by the Crusades, completely changed the balance of power in the Middle East. The biggest victim of these events was the Byzantine Empire. It had started to lose lands to the Seljuks in the 11th century. Then the Crusades, despite helping the empire in the very beginning, led to the sack of its capital, Constantinople, by the Latins. Anatolia was fractured beyond anything seen before. The ethnic and religious makeup of Asia Minor changed as more Turkic tribes moved in. As if it wasn't enough, the Mongol invasion of the Middle East started in the 13th century. In 1241 they made their first foray into Anatolia, and in 1243 decisively defeated armies of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum near modern-day Sivas. The Sultanate became a vassal of the Mongols, and a Byzantine successor state, the Empire of Nicaea, used that respite effectively. By 1261, the Greeks took back Constantinople and restored the Byzantine Empire in the northwestern part of Anatolia and Central Balkans. Unfortunately for them, the Mongols pushed more Turkic tribes out of Central Asia and the Iranian plateau towards Anatolia. By 1299, the leader of one of these tribes, Osman, was granted a small piece of land along the Byzantine border for his military service to the Seljuks. In 1302, he defeated a Byzantine army near Nicaea. Then, Osman used the dissolution of the Sultanate in 1308 to gain independence. Unlike other Beylik leaders, he didn't care for the usual tribal infighting. Osman and his descendants practiced a version of Islam that was stricter than that of the Seljuks and saw glory only in fighting against non-Muslims. His son Orhan took the Byzantine city of Prusa, the modern-day Bursa, and moved his capital there. Nicaea and Nicomedia fell to his troops in 1331 and 1337, and a few successful raids into Byzantine lands in Europe were conducted. Osmans, or Ottomans as they were called by the Christians, took their first city in Europe in 1354, using the fact that the walls of Gallipoli were destroyed by an earthquake. In the next decade, Adrianople, Plovdiv and Komotini were all conquered, and the new leader Murad I moved the Ottoman capital to Adrianople, modern-day Edirne. It seemed that nothing could stop the Ottomans, but to the west of their new holdings, the mighty Serbian Empire was ready to defend itself. In 1371, King Vukašin attempted to use the fact that most of the Ottoman forces were in Asia to take Adrianople and drive them out of Europe. With around 35,000 troops under his command, he moved to the valley of the Maritsa River. As no significant enemy force was in the area, the Serbian king did not send any scouts ahead, and his camp was virtually unguarded. But a small Ottoman army of 1,000 or so riders attacked the camp during the night. Thousands of Serbs were killed in their sleep, and even more drowned in the Maritsa during the chaos. The king, his brothers and many aristocrats died in this battle, which destroyed the Serbian Empire. Almost all Serbian and Bulgarian aristocrats became the vassals of Murad, among them the Prince of Moravian Serbia, Lazar. Despite that, when most of the Ottoman army moved to central Anatolia, Lazar rebelled alongside many other local feudal lords. His troops defeated a small army at the Battle of Plochnik in 1386 and pushed the Ottomans out of southern Serbia. This victory increased Lazar's authority tenfold, and he managed to form a broad alliance consisting of Serbs, Bulgars, Bosnians and Albans. Even some Bohemian and Hungarian aristocrats joined his army. But this time around he would be facing the best the Ottomans could offer. Sultan Murad, alongside his sons Bayezid and Yakub, moved towards Pristina in the June of 1389. Lazar and his troops would be waiting for them on the Kosovo, the Fields of the Blackbirds in Serbian. Let's take this opportunity to talk about the composition of the opposing forces. Murad had continued in the footsteps of his father and grandfather, expanding his regular army, which meant that Ottoman troops were very different from those once fielded by the Seljuks. Still, the Sultan did have a significant number of light cavalry, called akinci. They were armed with composite bows, axes, and maces, and usually acted as raiders or a flanking force. The regular cavalry, called sipahi, were a somewhat heavier horsemen with lances and bows. The irregular infantry was represented by azabs, who carry bows, polearms or halberds. Ottoman sultans also started a practice of using personal slaves from Christian peoples to form their elite janissary troops. They also were armed with various weapons. Janissaries served as the Sultan's guard and had both cavalry and infantry units. The Ottomans also had early cannons in their service. Altogether, Murad had 50,000 troops in this battle. On the other hand, the Serbs had a truly European army. Most of their cavalry was heavy, with only a handful of light hussars in support. Serb infantry used both bows and melee weapons according to the situation. Lazar had brought 30,000 warriors with him. Mountains surround the field of Kosovo to the west and east. Lazar knew that he would not be able to contain the Ottomans in the open plains to the north, and hoped that the terrain would prevent his enemies from using their superior numbers. The prince commanded the centre with 15,000 troops, with cavalry in the first line and infantry in the second. The left was led by Vlatko Vukovic, while the right was under the command of a local aristocrat, Vuk Brankovic. Both had around 7,000 warriors. On the opposite side, the Sultan stayed in the centre with 20,000 of his regular troops, while Yakub commanded 15,000 Anatolian warriors on the left, and Bayazid was on the right with the same numbers again. The Ottoman front line consisted of archers, who had dug a small protective trench and reinforced it with stakes. Most of the artillery was in the centre for both armies. The battle began on the morning of June 15th with a volley from the Serb cannons, which failed to reach Ottoman lines due to the distance. Ottoman cannons also weren't effective, and their archers were ordered forward. Lazar responded by ordering his cavalry forward, but this attack was stopped by the Ottoman centre and right flank. The Serb cavalry suffered many casualties, but on the right the attack was successful. The Serbs pushed the enemy all the way back to their camp. However, Bayezid on the Ottoman right was also pushing back the Serbian left after some initial difficulty. Still, Lazar had the initiative, and Murad was close to panic. This moment of the battle is still hotly debated in the Balkans. Leader of the right flank of the Christian army, Vuk Brankovic, left the field with most of the troops under his command. Some say that he was a traitor and had an arrangement with the Ottomans to abandon the battle. Others claim that he saved the troops that allowed him to resist the Ottoman onslaught for 2 more decades. Naturally, that freed up the Ottoman left, which pushed forward and attacked the Serb centre from the flank. The Serbian left slowly retreated under overwhelming enemy pressure, and soon their whole army was surrounded. We don't have all the details, but 2 events happened simultaneously at this point in the battle. First, Murad sent the majority of his troops forward to finish off the enemy, leaving himself nearly undefended. Then, a group of Serb knights used that weakness to break the line of his bodyguards and assassinate the Sultan. Christian sources assert that 11 knights sacrificed themselves to allow their comrade, Milos Obilic, to strike the enemy leader, who was killed on the spot. On another side of the battlefield, Lazar died fighting. Both Lazar and Milos are venerated as saints by the Serbian church. After the death of the prince, the fight was over and turned into a bloodbath. Ultimately, the casualties on both sides were catastrophic, but still, the Ottoman invasion of Europe continued, and many battles that we are planning to cover in the future were fought.